Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy. Luckily, Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, February 26th. What an awesome, beautiful day we have outside. And what happened in today in history? Abraham Lincoln in 1863 signs the National Currency Act establishing the U.S. currency. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I had no idea.
They had a lot of trouble with a lot of fraud as far as the dollars were concerned.
How were things back then?
Well, for my recall, when we were walking around, exchanging things and selling stuff.
Southern currency?
We'd get Southern currency, we'd get Northern currency, we'd get individual state currency. It was very confusing.
Which is better, pelts from raccoons or squirrels? What's more Bart?
I always like beaver.
Beaver pelts.
Beaver
Gotcha.
pelts were the ones you went for.
I struggled with February 26th for some reason. There just wasn't a lot, but 1983.
I wish it was February 29th. That would just be a very limited set.
Yeah, it would be very limited.
1/4 the information we normally give.
There might be one thing on the history.
I'm showing houses on the 29th. I'm a little freaked out.
Yeah. Also, 1983. Guess what happened in 1983 on this date?
Well, let's see.
1980. Can you remember back that far, Michael? You
Sure,
can.
I can.
I was 5, so
Yeah. You were worried.
Reagan-
Sesame Street.
1983. I want to say 1983.
Come on, music fans.
Oh, it's music.
Music fans.
Okay. Let's see. Led Zeppelin was already gone.
Yeah, Beatles had already broken up.
Rolling Stones
Madonna.
The Thriller album debuts, the number one, 37 weeks.
I think that
was a good video.
it was. I agree.
It was.
That
very
was
good.
the first time too. That was one of the most
Yeah.
advanced one with all the makeup and costumes.
He
that
was
they
a
did.
heck of a dancer and just a good actor and everything.
Yeah.
good.
Awesome performance.
What else you got, Blair?
Okay, 1987. Now, Mike's an NBA guy, so he probably is going to get this for us. Someone scored 58 points in one game for the first time.
In 87?
87.
The first
It
time
had
he
to
scored.
have
Rookie.
He had to be Michael. No,
No,
wasn't
it had to
Michael
be-
It was?
Jordan. It
Michael Jordan.
Oh, the first rookie.
But it
to do
wasn't the first time. You mean it was
No.
the first time for a rookie?
First time for him to score 58 points. No, yeah.
Points.
No, this is his first time
That was
scoring
back when
58
Abe Lincoln was
in
president.
Chicago.
That wasn't against the Cavs, was it? Please say.
No, I don't have who the
South.
Did you know that? Abe
What?
Lincoln went to Wilt Chamberlain's game when he scored 100.
Really?
Yeah.
I was there. I saw them both.
Get your popcorn.
And any Cowboy fans? This is an infamous date
which
for
year?
Cowboys fans.
94.
No,
93
infamous date, February 26th,
of
Jerry Jones?
1989.
Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys?
Yep,
1989, something infamous happened.
Yeah, it was Jerry
today.
Jones. Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys.
I'm going to have to probably agree with
Yeah.
that, unless it was
That was yesterday.
drafted Troy Aikman.
No, you're along the right side, line thinking.
Hired Jimmy Johnson?
Tom Landry was fired
Oh,
on this date.
Well,
So
in
then Jimmy Johnson came next,
1989.
right?
Yeah. Well, I think they had Jimmy in the wings when they actually did that. And,
Okay.
they didn't move him up to the general manager's side and so forth.
Tom Landry is a New York Giant.
As a player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe he's remembered.
29-year career here in Dallas. So I think his career here in Dallas went a little further. But
Well, I got his signature in San Antonio when he was owner of the San Antonio Raiders football team. And he was sitting there at Trinity University, and I went up and got his signature. And
Well, I got.
Wow.
autograph.
I actually got money with Abe Lincoln's picture on it.
Yeah, but you have money with Michael Jordan's picture on it.
Yeah, that's funny money.
While you're speaking of Michael Jordan, just when we were in Disney a few weeks ago, guess who walked 3 feet right in front of me? Michael Jordan.
And his family?
No, it wasn't. It was his.
Him
it was
by
his
himself?
It was his handlers. I tried to take a picture, and they're no photos, and I put my phone away so someone wouldn't take it and throw it on the ground and break it.
Were they doing Slam
was
Jam
this?
too?
No, he was walking into the Pooh Bear ride. That's where we were coming out of.
Gotta be the family.
By
Had to have been. He was
probably
by himself
joining.
at that
He was probably
point.
joining.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
he's catching
Something
up.
I'm sure, but that was
You know,
interesting.
The fast pass can be really fast.
I'm glad we have guests on here that have infamousy.
I think he goes to Disney to gamble.
Golf gambling, I believe that.
Very
Subtle,
inconspicuous.
subtle.
Yes.
And finally, 1993 on this date. Huge date, February 26, 1993.
February 26th.
1990.
World Trade Center bombing. The truck bomb.
The truck bomb.
Yeah,
Okay.
Truck
in
bomb.
the basement.
Killing 2 and injuring
Man,
over
you have a lot of
1,000.
downer stuff.
Yeah,
this
why are you so
morning.
down
What-
today?
what is
I'm
this
not
you
down
got to do?
today. Hey, I got my
on.
buddy Mike
Man,
over here.
I
Come
ju-
on,
I
a
just gotta
Cleveland
watch out.
Browns fan.
Oh, so
These are rare.
Tom, I guess we're not his buddy.
These
now.
are rare.
You got a buddy over there.
Hey, I don't know who this guy is.
We're
We're
decorations.
sitting
He hasn't been here in forever. I mean, I have
I tried
no
to call
idea.
in last
Come
week.
on, Joey, get on with the show, Joey.
I'm trying to call in. I'm like, I'm on my boat going, where are they? Where are they?
From the yacht. Yeah,
Oh,
we kind of cut
everybody
that
got
out.
sick.
Mark said no more.
Everybody's got that beer virus. And I'm like, okay.
Hey guys, right around the corner there's a season coming up. What is that?
Baseball.
Well, that's true,
I was
but
gonna say,
Spring?
Golf.
spring
Okay.
golf's already here. Come on now. Spring
He
season.
goes from sports right into weather.
right into weather.
March
Yeah.
22nd.
No, spring season. No, March
23rd?
19th.
19th? Early this
19th.
year.
Yeah, but daylight savings time starts next weekend, right?
The what?
Yes, it does.
7th of March, I think,
It's
is
my
daylight
most
savings
hated
time.
day
Yeah.
of
It's
the
about
year.
time.
It's my most hated day of the year. You
Why?
steal-
The spring forward stuff?
Yeah, you steal an hour of sleep from me, and look at it. I mean, what it can do, these looks. You don't want that to happen.
Put your hat back on. Put your hat back
It's too
on.
warm. It's warm in here.
I like his
Mark,
jammies.
can
Don't
we-
you like his jammies?
I like his jammies. I do like his
Air conditioning
jammies.
around here, Mark.
Hey, spring is close by, and of course that's the time we're doing a lot of changing. The temperate zone changes, and you know what is the biggest thing here in Texas that blooms during springtime?
Ragweed. I can answer that.
You're talking about the
Can
little.
you feel it?
Yeah.
You're not going to go blue bonnet.
Oh, come on, go blue bonnet with me.
Okay. Is it going to be a good
Everything's better with blue bonnet on it.
So
It's supposed to be a good year, right? Because all the
Yeah.
water we've had
Yep.
in this, December, January.
Yep.
Right?
it's been a warm one, but it will be a 6-week long period. Blue bonnets are coming out. But there's so many things we need to do. And, you know, just like we winterize our home, we need to get ready for springtime. We need to get ready. And Mike Majeski is here from Prestige Home Inspections to talk to us about what we need to be doing to help those homes, especially a lot of home buying's going on, things you want to check on, things you want to inspect for. So, Mike, again, always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Despite your
To all
Cleveland
y'all.
support, you know,
Yeah, I heard the smack talk
Dogs.
last week when I tuned in shortly when I was listening. I heard somebody say something about brownies and they were weak, and I'm like, okay, I know what I got to get myself into. So
I always love the clean, but you know, I don't trust this
My
guy
son
on
lives
golf.
in Cleveland, so I mean, I've got some empathy there.
well, Cleveland's a great town. It's a great town.
Except-
Maybe not from a sports perspective all the time, but
Got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Got a
Yes,
great cancer center.
We do. We have one of the best heart hospitals in the country, in the world,
Yeah.
actually, the Cleveland Clinic.
No, that's
So it's a.
they need a lot of heart helping in Cleveland
They
with
need
their
some
sports
golf
fans.
clubs after Cleveland. That's nice.
Yeah,
I used to have. I used to go through sets of those.
I'll
Alan,
bet you
actually.
did.
I
I
did.
bet
I
you
had plenty
did.
of sets.
Yeah. I never bought any Dallas clubs once.
well, try to get this. You know, we want to talk about homes, and we want to talk about what we can be doing to. You know, I mean, I got a pool I've got to work on to get it ready for the spring and summertime. We just put in some wonderful new AC units for us. That's awesome, but you know there are things we can be doing to winter and sub-winterize, but you know springtime our home, and not just your golf swing. So help us understand what's coming up, what's going on, and then of course Alan our wonderful realtor in studio all the time with
Sales.
us, is always talking about, hey, this is a time selling and buying is going on. It really ramps up right now. The season has started. If you're not listed right now, you know there are a lot of people out there ready to buy, a lot of people that are pre-qualified. What can we be doing to get ready for the springtime? So give us some insight.
Well, this time of year, a lot of people are not outside in the wintertime because it's cold. They're not walking around their house looking at things. And that's our traditional wet season, right? Is in the wintertime. Some of the big things that, from an inspection standpoint, that I'm going to be finding this time of year, a big thing on especially older homes is a lot of wood rot around houses.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the real warm temperatures that we did, and water just kind of been sitting. The grass is all dormant, so it's not sucking water up. Water's sitting up against houses, and you get a lot of moisture damage around trim, around the siding, that type of stuff, and that can be conducive not only to damage, the siding and stuff, but that can be conducive to termite activity, wood-destroying insects type of stuff. And
Texas is bad with that.
it absolutely is.
Yep.
And that's what's one of the big things
I
that
think we're number 2 to Florida.
you're right. That's exactly right, Alan. And
We need to be number one.
not in that category.
oh, I'm sorry. I kind of lost track there.
But that does a lot of damage to homes, and
Yeah.
it can be expensive to fix if you let it go a long way too. Especially the older homes that use the wood siding. That don't use the hardy board that is a little better at resisting wood rot. But I see it a lot. A few houses I've done in the past 2 weeks, I've had a lot of it, and it doesn't take long if you're not out there maintaining your siding, you're not keeping it painted,
Yeah.
that type of stuff to protect it from the elements. You're going to run into that type of stuff.
Yep.
So that's a big thing to look at outside your house. Another thing that we see a lot, in the wintertime, people aren't taking care of the shrubs and stuff like that, and I think there's a lot of shrubs here that still grow even when it's somewhat cold outside, and that could be another insect entry point into your house. If you got shrubs up against your house, ivy, that type of stuff, this springtime's a good time to pull all that stuff down before it
Yeah.
starts growing and taking over more than maybe it already has. So that's another thing that you can start looking at. I try to tell people to go do walk-arounds of their house this time of year especially, to look for those types of things. Testing your irrigation system that you may have shut off back in the fall. You turned it off at the valve in your front yard, and you haven't run it since last fall. Well,
Does the irrigation system also include your foundation drip system?
it can on some homes.
Okay, you're including, because I think that's critical. I think that's one of the key things I look at, because I do shut that off during the wintertime, freezing. But now with the summer coming on, your ground is fine right now, but it can dry out very quickly.
Yes.
And that's, I think it can catch us by surprise if this is one of those simple things that we can do, but we forget, or we don't check it, or the hoses are brittle and they break, and you've got a major opening as opposed to a drip system. To me, I think that's really critical with the foundation issues. Would you agree with homes that are foundations?
I think so many people make a mistake in the winter. They don't continue the foundation drip, and they don't continue the watering. You got to keep your grass green, or at least alive and healthy. Maybe it's brown and dormant, but it has to be alive and healthy, at least 6 feet around the perimeter of your home. That's for a healthy foundation. It's who cares about the grass, really? Let's talk about the foundation. So people don't do that. Now this year, we've had almost record-breaking rain this winter. We've had a lot of rain.
Yep.
And the lakes are full. The yards are
Wettest
pretty moist.
January since
Right.
1972.
Well, there you go.
Say that again.
Wettest January since 1972.
Okay.
I think somebody said we've already
Third
had
wettest ever.
9 inches of rain.
I don't know. I think
In
here or
January?
there.
I can't. I can
No,
barely hear
this
you.
year.
Oh, okay. Just in 2020.
In 2020, we've already had 9 inches of rain.
Wow.
We can't hear him.
That like they want to hear.
I
Okay,
can
there we
hear
go.
him. I can
Okay.
hear him.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was not. I'm just.
So anyway, we're talking about rain. We've had 9 inches of rain already here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And what do we get, 21 a year?
Right.
So we have 9 already, and it's winter. So a couple things. I have one friend who has foundation issues starting from dry and cracked ground. Well, now it's going up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know inspectors see, and they're more afraid of going up a lot of times than they are coming down. It's a whole different ball game.
The heaving,
whatever comes up does come down.
yeah. Well, the heaving, I agree, Alan. The heaving
Yeah.
can cause a lot more problems
Yes.
than settling can, for
Yep.
sure. No
Really?
doubt. Absolutely.
Mhm.
You hear that from foundation structural engineers will tell you that.
Yep.
Foundation repair companies will tell you that too.
Well, is it harder to repair that sort of thing with the excess water, or it has to be drained? And
Well, first off, you're right. It's drainage. That's huge. I mean, I had a home that, about 2 years ago, I want to say, pretty extreme example of foundation issues. We have an FHA loan, which won't work until we get it fixed. So we got it fixed.
203K.
Got it all done. And so the foundation got stable. But then due to their neighbors, these are homes that are 45 years old, landscape changes, neighbors put dirt someplace where it didn't used to be, and their house started going up right off the pier. And that's serious.
yes,
So that's expensive too. So that's why you got to keep an eye on the water, and as much as water in your foundation is important, you got to have proper drainage around it too.
Correct.
you got to keep
And
that flow.
inspectors will inspect, and they will often on an inspection report we get drainage issues, and
Sure.
it's a big thing.
So there's a lot of things. We get a good start here on our spring walk around and spring preparation. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just.
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
You're listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
And
Hello and welcome
What are you doing there, Blair?
to Welcome Home
The watch
Radio
party didn't start yet.
with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
get no breaks here.
I love it.
The waters in the
love it.
mortgage industry can be pretty muddy.
even though Tom is
Luckily,
here,
Welcome
he's
Home
not
Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
And welcome back to Welcome Home Radio. It is February 26th. I hope you're having a wonderful day. You can follow us on Facebook Live at KVGI Radio and on YouTube at KVGI Media. And if you have questions for our panel here, please call us in at 877-337-5844. We're talking with Mike Majeski of Prestige Home Inspections. We're talking springtime tune-up. I guess that's a good way to call it. Springtime tune-up. Things we can be doing around our house, even if you're not looking to sell your home or you're looking to buy a home, you want to make sure the home is being prepped for springtime. And one of the critical pieces, and a huge piece, is that foundation. I think we've kind of talked about that. Let's go into HVAC. Let's kind of talk about what's going on because, you know, things are going to be turned from heat to cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen there? What do we need to be looking at? What do we need to be seeing about prepping our HVAC systems so that they're good and ready for use in the summertime?
Yeah, so definitely one of the things we always tell clients is that if it is, you know, we're coming out of wintertime, most times we're not going to run the air conditioning when it's under 65 degrees because you can damage the compressor. So that first chance you get to turn on.
I've never heard that, but
Yeah,
is it just the reason you can't get down to 60 degrees or something?
No, it's not that. So the Freon, you know, is not Freon. The refrigerant,
The new stuff.
the new stuff
Yeah.
that they
A24.
yeah, it's a you know, it's in a gas form.
Yes.
Okay. So when it gets cold though, it can turn into a liquid, and a compressor in an air conditioner is not made to pump liquid, and you can do serious damage to it if you turn it on. It's below
did you
65
know that?
degrees.
I only knew it because of inspectors.
You knew it,
I didn't know it until an inspector told me.
but
Why haven't
you
you
knew that
told
before
us?
he told you.
I knew that before today, yes.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's why you're not supposed to turn it on if it's below 65. We won't do that. You know, a lot of times I'll come back when it's a little warmer. I
Right.
just did that like a week ago. I just went out and did a couple visits real quick on a Sunday so I could turn them on because it was like
Blair,
75
the reason
degrees.
Wow.
the reason realtors know it is because they read the inspection
Yeah,
reports
that's
and they flat say they didn't do it. It's like a rainy day; they can't check the roof either. Can't you know? They're not supposed to go up on the roof. That's what I hear a lot.
Well,
Plus
it
it's
depends.
slick.
Like if it's not a high pitched roof,
Yep.
even if it's raining, I don't care. I'm gonna go up there regardless. In all reality, as long as you have good shoes. and
When are you
it's
going
not
to use the
pouring-
drone technology and stop going on the roof?
I like to walk on the roof because you can get a feel of what's going on with it that you can't get with a drone. You
Yeah,
can't
I
tell
don't-
if it's a
I
soft
don't want a
roof by
drone
walking
inspector.
I'm
We
just,
have a drone class at Champions.
on it. I saw that. I saw you guys
Yeah,
offer
I mean,
that now.
It really is a good class.
I'm
They
sure it
go out in
is.
the field and all that, and they show them how to get the drone.
I'm into boots
so
on the ground.
close to it. Well, you can get the drone like you're walking on it next to the, you know.
I
what
shoot them
damage
down
it
when
could
I
be.
see them. I get the shotgun out.
God.
My thing though with
Oh, that's my neighbor.
the drones with the going on, you know, checking the roof and stuff, you can't get a feel
No.
This is
of
true.
why
Soft-
walking
soft-
on it.
the
Yeah.
home inspector whisperer.
Well, next you're gonna go to Google Maps and zoom in and go, "Oh, it looks great." You know.
You know what's funny though?
That's a good
Alan, I
idea.
bet you that's happened
That's a
before.
good
I
idea.
bet you someone's done that.
Well, you know, we were talking about yards, and I flat out have had somebody on the phone quoting yard work from, we got it on Google Maps. It looks like you have this much room and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I need you to come over and look at my grass and like,
Now,
Yeah.
not when Google took a picture of
Yeah.
it.
Right, that's right. Which could have been 3 years ago, 4 years
Right.
ago.
Who knows? So again, so you're not able to run the AC, but we want to check out. What are we doing? I mean, besides.
So maybe walking outside, or walking around your unit or units if you have multiple ones outside, looking for things such as is there staining on the concrete pad? Okay.
Staining.
Yeah,
okay?
maybe there's a little bit of staining where your refrigerant lines are going into the actual unit outside.
Mhm.
Maybe you see staining or some kind of liquid around there. That could be refrigerant leaking out.
So we could have developed a crack
Possibly.
somewhere along the line during the winter.
It's possible.
Okay.
May not be probable, but it does happen from time
Yes.
to time. And you'd know too. You put your finger on that stuff. It's an oily feel. That's an issue that you have to have an HVAC.
And this is
tech.
that Freon.
Well, it's refrigerant It can be refrigerant leak. It can also be, the whole system's lubricated. So if you start losing, you shouldn't have, and it's sealed, so you shouldn't be having oil leaks around the unit itself. If you're
I sure hope I don't have them now. Just got brand new systems.
Well, you're good.
I hope.
You're probably fine.
Now, one of the things that I've learned in the past that I go out and do is take a hose to it, clean off all those leaves, clean out everything I can clean out so that the fans, everything's able to flow well. Because if you're not, if it's blocked by a bush, if it's blocked by, or things like that.
Yeah, condenser coils around the actual condenser outside. Usually it's the backside that's the worst. It's up against the house because that's where all that dirt collects in the fins.
Yep.
Definitely not going to work as efficiently if that is all dirt covered.
So simply running a hose on it would help out.
Yeah, if it's real bad, get a high pressure hose and do it. But a garden hose, if you're doing it, once a month, then the garden hose should be plenty.
Once a month.
I do mine once a month.
Okay.
That's what I tell people.
Well, every
to
time
do.
you cut your grass or weed whack around it, it just sucks it up.
Yep.
So you got
especially if it's running. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they generally are in the summer. They don't shut off much.
That's right. Yeah. So looking for that type of stuff. That's one of the big things to be looking for. Looking around where the penetrations are that go into the wall from outside. So your wire connections, your refrigerant lines, a lot of those are supposed to be sealed. They're supposed to be sealed up. So
with a silicone base.
Silicone base. People use the expansive foam you can buy. Anything like that.
Those are almost. A lot of them are not sealed.
Dried out.
And you almost got to make sure you treat it for bugs because it's like a highway.
It's like a highway.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, of course, that people are supposed to be doing, whether they have a 1-inch system, which is every 90 days, and a 4-inch system, which is every 6 months, I believe, estimated, just changing out your filter.
Absolutely, and that's probably one of the most. That's probably one of the biggest things that I find is people just don't change their filters out inside the house for their HVAC unit. You find ones that they're so caked with dirt and dust, and the system is not going to work well at all with those type of things.
Everybody listening is guilty of that.
Absolutely.
I think everybody. I mean, my allergies are the ones that tell me to change. So
right, right.
So
your intake vents in your house, they get filthy fast.
You've got to watch those. Is that a place not only to clean, but to hear or listen to or see? Because a lot of homes don't have enough airflow intake.
That can happen, especially older homes. In newer homes, they do a whole energy audit on the thing before they build it, and they determine how many vents there's going to be, how many returns, and then they build that to spec, however they spec it out. But the older homes, a lot of times they just don't. So, having an energy audit is never a bad idea, especially if you're putting a new system in, because that house was designed for the old system that maybe was installed.
Who does energy audits?
There's a lot of, we don't as inspectors, we don't test how much airflow is going through the house and that type of stuff, but there are companies that will come out and actually do an energy audit.
It used to be like TXU.
Oh, like the utility company?
Because we paid a certain additional fee. Is that still?
Not that I know of. I don't know if TXU does those.
I don't know.
And they may not do it for free either if they're going to do it.
Well, we just had our HVAC systems put in. The HVAC company did a flow, and they actually put an additional return into our home because we were limiting, and we also had a very loud noise when the new systems were in that it went away when that next return went in. So I don't know if it's the full energy, windows and all the rest that you're talking about, but for the HVAC systems, the HVAC company come in and they can actually do it took about 35 minutes to do an audit of the home.
They
digitally.
seal everything off. They close all the doors and seal them and all that stuff too.
I didn't see him do that. What I saw him do was a digital read on every room size and how many returns, the size of them, and then the system, and then they do an airflow analysis and to see. And then we shared with them certain portions of the home are hotter or cooler at different times and the reasoning for that. And they figured out the downstairs did not have enough airflow. And once that next airflow was put in, the noise from the return that was right outside our master bedroom went away.
Okay.
It was huge to us because it was a brand new noise. But to me, that was a good audit to understand what they're talking about because systems, let's say, you need a 4-ton, but you buy a 5-ton. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not always a good thing because that system turns on and off so much that literally you're wearing out the system before, even though you have the capacity to cool the house, a larger capacity, it's not a good thing because it wears out sooner. I did not know that.
We had a new one put in a year ago, and I work in the front room on the street, and it's where I work, and it was the hottest room in the house forever, so I had them put in another duct. So I have 2 ducts in there now, baby, and it's the coolest room in the house.
Quack, quack a
I
lot.
was
Yeah,
going, quack,
it's a
quack,
one-story,
quack,
so
quack.
it's easy to do, but it's just, and it's nice and warm in the winter. So my wife comes in there and she'll work out in that office sometimes too.
So again, I don't mean to go so far into one area, but I think HVAC, we need to prepare ourselves for the springtime. The summer's going to hit us. We have longer summers here. AC is going to be utilized. It's critical for every home, especially the elderly. Putting in Windows units sometime is a very valid reasoning, but I think what else can we be doing for the HVAC besides filter changing, cleaning on the outside, checking the seals?
I always recommend you get an HVAC technician to come out in the springtime before it gets
and
hot.
Do an audit.
And to check everything and test it accordingly, because you don't want to run into the middle of July when it's 105 outside, when they are super busy and may not be able to come out right away to test it, make sure it's going to be working.
For an average person who really doesn't think about hiring people like that, we get up on our ladders and vacuum out our little vents and, where the air's coming out. When we had our new system put in, I had to change. It's a filter. It's supposed to last 3 months. It's one of them big ones, and it's real nice. But I had to change it after the first couple days because all the insulation in the roof was going in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. After they moved it all around. And stuff.
Right.
So, and then that meant every duct in the house had little pieces of insulation.
Yeah.
Blowing through. So you got to keep those things clean too. When I show houses and you walk into a home and it's pretty, they vacuumed and the counters are clean and they'll leave bottled water for you or something, it's all nice. You look in those vents and they didn't touch them.
Yep.
And I always tell people when you're buying a home, we only can see what we can see when we're in there. We're not inspectors. But if they're not taking care of something we can see, Lordy, what are they not taking care of when we can't see it?
That's
Sure.
right. That's right.
Yeah, our springtime tune-up is very critical. Winter tune-up is just as much, but I think springtime is for Texas. I think is more important. Preparing for that time and filters and all of that. What's the next thing? I mean, he brought up something that I think is critical, and how often we don't look at older homes is insulation.
That you guys read my mind, because that's kind of where I was going to go next was talking about insulation. So a lot of times the older homes, the HVAC units are going to be in a closet downstairs. A lot of times they're not in the attic. So if you've been in that home, you haven't been up in the attic for a long period of time, if it's older insulation,
that old insulation can go down, right?
It's much better
Worse.
at compressing than the newer stuff is. The newer stuff kind of won't compress as fast. It does, but not as fast. The older stuff will just compress over itself.
How easy is it to put more insulation in? Can you do that yourself, or is that required?
You can buy bags of this stuff from Home Depot and Lowe's.
Literally can just go up there and dump it.
Just
Yep.
throw it. Just
Yep.
throw it.
Yep, you can do it that way.
Just throw it.
Just throw it.
It's like
Well,
throwing.
Actually, Home Depot
you
will
have-
give you a machine that will actually help dispense it.
But you can physically
Throw my grandchildren up there and let them just throw it around
Yeah,
and
there
then
you go.
play around.
Yep.
I mean,
Here, play.
you'll have
Hey,
legs
hey,
through your
somebody-
sheetrock.
hide here.
Lots of holes in the ceiling for
Oh
sure.
my goodness.
And there's companies that come in though. You can pay them and they will blow in as much insulation as you want, as well. There's a lot of companies around DFW that do that. But yeah, you can just go buy bags of this stuff. Say you go into an older home, you live in an older home, and maybe the person that lived there before had, walked around, run some new wires or something. And you have areas that are good, 12 plus inches, because that's what we really want, 12 plus.
12 plus inches.
That's
So
what-
if we see it below the I-beam, normally that's not 12 inches. It needs to be covering those.
Where you can really tell by just being a normal person on the street is up north. When it snows, if you go and buy a house and it's got a clean roof, they got horrible insulation because the heat's rising right through and melting the snow.
That's right.
That's exactly how it works up north. And if you see, other than that, you have to get up on the roof and get the snow off because it's heavy.
Yeah.
But insulation matters. Heat rises, and every heat you can keep low is a good thing. So,
Well, I'm going to look into that just for myself. I mean, but I think any one of our listeners, Deb McNeil just waved at us saying
Hi,
hello.
Deb.
Hey, Deb.
I'm in your chair, Deb.
I think that's something easily done. Is that correct? It's not that hard to do. It's a one-day affair
Yeah, not
and
anymore. It's really easy for if you hire somebody to come in, they can do it in a couple hours.
Yeah,
If that,
it's
it does
quick.
not take long at all. And that gives you a ton going into the summertime. That's going to cut your energy bills a ton.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And that connects with doors and windows.
Yeah, and that's kind of I was going to go to that next.
Yeah.
Talking about going around looking, making sure your doors and windows are sealed up. Your weather stripping around doors is in good shape.
So
you're not missing it in places.
In Texas in the 60s, they built those little houses with the aluminum wiring for electricity and also single glazed windows, which is just a piece of glass with a piece of aluminum, and it helps.
A piece of glass with a piece of aluminum.
Yeah, there's no insulation in the glass.
It's not double pane
It's
gas.
single. Yeah, and it's very bad. So they came up with insulated windows, aluminum, which are better but not great, and that's where you've seen the inroads of vinyl. You got more dead air space, which means it's quieter, more efficient at thermal, taking care of things cool and hot.
Would you agree on the windows side? I think I kind of want to understand it for myself. My home my front faces south. So I think
Gonna go through.
what? Oh, yeah, we're going to go through a little bit.
Good.
Our home faces south. So those window panes facing south, facing the heat constantly, you need to check for cracks and leaks and seepage. How do you do that to be able to see if a window is really bad? I mean, our visual eyes, we can't see that.
So two things that we look at
Okay.
as inspectors. One, do you have condensation in between? If you have double pane windows, do you have condensation in between the panes? If you do, you've lost the seal, and that is not that the window is going to potentially leak, but from an energy efficiency standpoint, whatever inert gas they had put in between those panes has leaked out, and you no longer have that energy efficiency of that window.
And by simple design, they're designed to fail, so they will fail.
Right.
Well, exactly. They're designed to fail.
Yeah, they will fail.
That's so funny about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So checking on that, but then what about the seal of the whole window unit?
So looking around, you start looking around the window frame itself.
Mm-hmm.
Window sills, it shows up first, and you'll be able to see maybe some damage on your sheetrock at the top, and it will tend to move down and get a little bit bigger as it travels down and finds a place to pool. So if you have water coming in from outside, and I've seen this in the last 2 weeks too, the wall around the frame and the frame itself and the windowsill will have a lot of water damage. And if that is something, we're going to start looking, okay, this is a key that there's something going on here. We're going to go outside and look what we see outside as well. And a lot of times it's a house that had a lot of foundation movement, and you have a huge gap in between that brick veneer and the window frame itself, and you're getting water's
Water's
getting
going in.
behind
And you
it.
also have the new construction versus the replacement window. New construction has a window flange around it, built right into the house, covered with the drywall and all that, versus a replacement window where they just cut out the window and then they put in the new window to fit a hole. And then they have to seal that gap because it has to fit in, obviously. And that can be an issue too. And that's why the quality of a window replacement, it's very important. That is a big, big deal. You can spend a lot of money on windows. If they don't install it right, you're in trouble.
Right.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with our spring tune-up discussion. Stay tuned.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just.
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
Blair, you got to talk about a roof.
Hello
before we get
and
done, too.
welcome
Roofs.
Yes.
to
big.
Welcome Home Radio
Couple things of this I wanna talk about anyway,
with
so-
your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
It's perfect. My God, that's the way we ought to end the show.
Are we back, sir?
We can.
Are we back?
Yeah,
All right.
that was-
February 26th, we're talking springtime tune-up
absolutely
with
great.
Mike Majeski and Prestige Home. Yeah, we're having some, not difficulties, but just interesting transfers here. Hey,
in our life
we
by
were
smiling.
talking windows. I think we've just talked ourselves into a whole nother show for that one. And with our time left, we've got several other items we want to get to. But any final things about windows that you want? I mean, screens are very easy to do and replace, and any holes in screens you want to repair
You
those.
want to try to. If you're going to open the windows up, yeah, you don't want to have a
Especially
bunch of holes in the
springtime
screens.
here in
Yes.
Texas is a great time to air out your home. Let things flow.
As long as your wife doesn't have allergies like mine do, then absolutely.
There's always that one in the crowd,
Yeah,
I tell
right.
you. Well, next time, let's go back to, as I understand it, we want to talk about the roof a little bit more because there's some additional things that we want to discuss about your roof coming into spring.
Yes, so from a roof standpoint, there's some things that can happen over the winter.
Like?
One is, and this is firsthand experience, is that I ended up with a roof leak in my garage. Okay. So part of the issue with that is if water's sitting up there for long periods of time, the sun's not as strong in the wintertime. And say you have a shaded area part of your house, and then one of the valleys in the roof is in that shaded area, and water just likes to kind of sit and things like that. You can end up with a roof leak, and not maybe when water's sheeting off of there during a heavy rainstorm in the springtime, you don't see it. But if water can sit, it can find its way in if there's an area that maybe the
Sure.
shingles were installed correctly, that wasn't apparent before, but that it can become apparent
And in
down
this
the road.
market, easy to identify if we get one of those light snows.
Yep.
That snow stays right there and it melts everywhere else.
Correct. And that's kind of what happened with my house.
Yep.
It was actually just some moisture that had sat, and a leak became evident in the garage, and it did not damage not only the sheetrock on the ceiling, but my entire left side of the garage wall.
But
was-
once you discover, I mean, it's too late once you discover
Absolutely
it
it is.
because it's already.
It
So
is.
so what can we do? I mean, literally getting an expert to walk that
having
whole
a
roof.
If you're concerned about something, or say during the wintertime, like Alan, you were saying earlier, we had a snow or ice and snow was just, you see your neighbor's house and they still have snow on it, and yours melted in like 5 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
That should be a signal. Okay, maybe I need to call a roofer number one and have someone come out and look at my attic at what's going on with my insulation as well.
Sure.
But when you do find a roof leak, yeah, it's at that point it's too late. Then you have to get it remedied. So having a roofer come out and doing their walk, they're going to be able to tell you what's causing the roof leak, and they'll be able to figure out how to fix it.
Inspectors they start it. They go up, they look, and they'll say it's usually one or two things. It's like, oh, this thing's been pounded. We need to.
Yeah.
So that means, okay, now as a buyer representative, let's say, I got to get with the seller representative and say it's not insurable. We that roof's got to be replaced, because if you're buying a home and you got to obviously have insurance because you're getting a loan, you won't insure it. So
I can't believe you're that way, Tom, that you won't give a loan just because a roof is bad. That's just.
but
But I will.
So what else about the roof are we looking at besides those types of leaks and situations? Really just getting an inspection. What can I look for as I walk on that roof since I'm the one doing this spring tune-up?
Well, maybe you're not walking on the roof. Maybe you're down on the ground, okay, and looking at where your gutters are coming out. If you have a lot of granules that you notice are around where the gutter downspouts are, then you're losing some of the you're losing the granulation on the roof shingles themselves, and that can be a sign of wear and tear that you need to get
and a
further
quick
inspected.
sign.
Well,
a
can I
quick
ask
sign
a
of that-
question on this real quick? Because that's a good point. But I had a lot of that when I got my new roof on there, and then all of a sudden it kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
So if you got a new roof, that's going to be there.
Well, yeah,
but
because the guys are
then-
up there walking on it, putting it in, and all that where they're walking is going to come off.
Well, time does it too, and hail and rain
Yes.
and
Yes.
snow. But if you look at your house someday and you see your gutters are slightly off, chances are you got a lot of pounds of granules in your gutter.
If you're not cleaning those out, and that's something I think
Nobody
in the
cleans
spring
their
tune-out,
gutters.
you got to clean your gutters out.
They take
you
a
do.
blower and they blow it. The leaves come out, but those granules, a lot of them don't.
No, you got to get in there with I use a what is it, a planter spade to what you're talking about to get those out.
I
so
call
that
a guy and tell him to get on the ladder and help.
Yeah. What are you guys
like that
doing
better.
climbing up on a roof, man? Jeez, this is a bunch of old folks waiting to happen, a mistake waiting to happen.
What's
Tom-
he
Tom
what is
woke
he
up.
calling me?
Tom woke up.
Yeah, who's woke up here? Scooby
Can hear him and everything.
Just-
Doo. Man, Scooby Doo's alive.
Hey.
He got off his Facebook
I
page.
think he's cooling down.
Okay, so roof and then gutters. Gutters are
Yep.
critical. Clean those out. Make sure it's flowing.
Around the roof itself. And I see this a lot of new homes, okay? A lot of the areas where you have maybe where underneath the eaves, where you're coming to a corner of the house that aren't sealed properly, you're going to get wasps and stuff growing in your attic and building nests. I had one last summer, and I had a buddy of mine who also is an inspector, and he sent me a photo that he was outside looking at the house, and these bees, there were a lot of them flying around one corner. So he said, this is interesting. Took his IR camera, went inside, and took a picture, and there's a big yellow and red spot right in one of the corners where the wall is, telling you, there's something
Moving.
going on there, and sure
Moving.
enough, there was a hive
And
behind the wall.
that's when I'm going
Wow.
to call Tom and get one of them drones over there.
See, there's reason.
But before we leave the roof gutter thing, we were talking drainage earlier, and I am telling you, in Texas, gutters are important for foundations. They're
are.
huge.
Okay, so I've got the question, and I've been told opposite each time I ask this question.
You're right, Alan. He
Uh-oh.
did wake up. So
At the bottom of the downspout, the concrete thing, do you point it so
Concrete
the water
thing.
runs? The concrete thing.
Backwards, Tom. You do it backwards.
Do you point it so the water runs under the house, or do you point it so it runs
away.
away from the house?
I have two.
Away
I have
from
two
the
criteria
house.
for this. Okay, one, if it's if you have a flat lot, okay,
Yeah.
and the water is not going to be rushing out of there at a really high rate, okay, I don't mind if you just put it kind of with the open end faced out. If you have a very steep area around your house already, and that splash block acts like an energy dissipator,
And
if
that's
you
what it's
turn it around
designed
the
to
other
do.
way.
That's what it's designed
Okay?
to do.
So if it's steep around it, I like to see them the other way. If it's flat, I don't mind if it's the other way around. If you have the open end facing away, that's
Open
okay
end
with me.
creates ruts.
It can.
That's what it does. and
It does.
Yeah.
But I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
And from my
did you get your answer?
That's exactly. Didn't answer my question. No. You did answer.
He
the
did
question.
answer
I
it.
answered.
You did.
He gave his expert opinion.
I've got to decide: is this a flat?
Is it
space?
steep enough or
How-
flat?
How flat is this spot? So okay.
if you live in Capel, I think they outlawed them 2 years ago anyway.
A better
right.
idea is put an
right.
extension on the end of that thing
Now-
and run it like 3 feet away
It's
from
an
the house.
HOA thing now.
Now we just take the water off of our roof and use it for rainwater.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
they
fills-
use a rain
Fills your
barrel.
rain barrel?
Yeah.
I'd shower and wash my hair.
Yeah.
My
So
aunt
you
in
wash
Lubbock-
once
I
a
grew
year
up in Lubbock.
with whatever hair he
In
has.
summer in Lubbock, my aunts had this big, huge barrel that they captured rainwater in, and literally they used it to wash their hair for
Yep.
years. And
People
years.
do that.
I mean, but in Lubbock, water's a premium too.
Fort Jackson, they used to do that too for all of us basic trainees. So I understand. So again, roof, gutters, I think this is critical. I think this is a great spring tune-up. But one of the things that comes with spring are those nasty six-legged creatures.
Yep.
We need to do something. What do we do? Do we do it ourselves? Do we get somebody coming out? I don't know if those companies do that type of thing. Inspect. Well, what do we do here?
Just get a little beagle.
Yeah, that works well.
Yeah,
that works well.
Protein.
I guess my spoiled dogs, they're not eating them.
I'm still trying to figure out 6 legs. I mean, I have 4-leg problems.
Tom is wide awake. I love it. Get him, Tom.
Ever
Get
since they
him.
open that door.
You know, my brother.
Take us down this road before we lose total control, please, Mike.
Like 6 legs. Wow.
Which relative am I talking about?
Well, if you got 8 legs, you're safe.
3 of my ex-wives.
Yeah, nothing we're talking about is going to save you. You're good if you're 8
If you
legs.
got 8 legs or more.
I'm just glad he can
pass.
add. Going back, we got insects coming. They're going to start coming.
Yep.
You talked about bees. You talked about wasp nesting. Those things are simple to take care of if you catch them early. If you don't catch them early, of course. But we've also got termites. We've also got ants. We've also got, kids running around with food and it's on the floor. And, of course, that's an attraction if we're not cleaning as much.
Yep.
Help us through this part because springtime is really right now is the best time to start protecting your home from insects.
Yeah, keeping a lot of the foundation and the exterior walls, keeping vegetation off of those. That's my number one thing.
Okay, talk about that. Why?
You want to keep it trimmed because that can be an entry for the insects to get onto the house.
They love
okay,
to
they'll
climb
crawl
up
them
the
up.
leaf.
Exactly.
Explain. That's why our listeners not
I know,
understanding.
picture. This is radio, so we'll do it.
Yep. So exactly what Tom is saying. So Tom's crawling up this bush, right? And this bush is all over the house. Or you have ivy that's growing up the house. Oh, this is perfect. I can just climb up this thing and then find a little hole somewhere, maybe next to that window or maybe into a weep hole, and I'll go right in and I can eat all I want out of your pantry, anything like that, right?
Okay. And also, what about limbs off the tree hanging over the roof?
That's not so much
Squirrels.
trees. Squirrels for one,
Squirrels.
but also those limbs can go down and rub on the roof, damage shingles, that type of
Sure.
stuff. So
Well,
keeping
during
those
an
off of there.
inspection, that's a typical thing an inspector will write.
Yep.
Get the tree limbs off the roof.
But also, if the tree limb is touching or if leaves are touching, insects can come off that limb, down that leaf, onto the roof, and then, of course, access to your
Find a
whole
way
home.
in. Yeah.
Well, and if tree
Fireplace
limbs are
or
touching,
anything.
they're also rubbing against your
Right.
when the wind blows, like today, taking shingles and knocking all the aggregate off of it.
So everything, bushes, trees, anything, vines
away.
growing
Yep,
up
even
need to
a
be
1 or
taken away.
Yeah, 1 or 2 inch gap is usually good when we're doing an inspection. As long as there's a gap there, we're good. A lesser known thing too, fixing the wood rot we talked about earlier. Termites like wood rot because it's easy peasy for them to eat.
To start.
Yep. So that if they start eating that and that's up against your house, well, you got that can be an issue. Or
Oh my God! How many times have you done an inspection and they got their wood right up against the house?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's where I was going next, Alan.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they'll have their firewood right up against the house, and not only is that bad
It's
for
by
termites.
the door.
Yeah. Spiders
It's
will go
cold
in there.
out.
Snakes will go in there.
Oh, got snakes really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They like to find their way, and they're going to come in. They're going to come in. So debris around the house.
Right.
Move that stuff
Clean
away.
it away,
Move it
get it
away.
out.
Right. Exactly.
And when you're spraying, my dad gave me when he quit doing his house, he gave me a Ghostbuster backpack thing, and it's really big, carries a lot of fluid in the back of it, and you just pump it and it sprays real good. I spray the bushes around. They're not touching the house, but I spray I spray everything for insects. 3 foot up from the foundation up, I spray all the way around the windows. Spray all that.
All weep holes get nailed it at my house. I know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta soak that and clean it up.
And doing that on a regular basis too as we go forward into the summer. You can't just do it once. You read this stuff like the ortho, it works for up to 12 months. So what they don't tell you that isn't an environment where it's climate controlled and they can spray it on that and it stays for a while. If it rains, that stuff gets washed away.
And
It's
it
gone.
doesn't matter how good you take care of your house. In Texas, you're only 6 feet away from a spider in any house at any time.
That's right.
6 feet max. There's a spider. Take that, Blair.
And
I don't know where he's living.
Whoa.
And some of the spiders aren't bad. Wolf spiders and all that, they do their job by eating other insects that can be worse pests than they are.
Right.
But going back to the debris around the house, black widows, brown recluse, they like to live in those types of places.
And don't kill geckos. They're your friend.
Yes.
Any
Absolutely.
of the lizards, anything out
Yeah,
there.
they eat all that bad stuff.
Yeah.
And they do. And going to, we're talking about outside the house, sealing up areas. Maybe you have gaps between the windows and stuff like that, or you have gaps underneath an eave or something.
And we all do.
We do.
Every house.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's pest control companies that will go out and they'll come and check everything, and not only will they treat, but they'll also seal up areas that need sealed. Even like new homes I go into, I'll go in the attic, I see tons of areas where daylight's coming through, and that goes back to wasps and stuff getting it, because if you can see it, some kind of insect's going to be able to find their way into doing that,
Sure.
and then get into the rest of the house. So
We had, when we bought this house 10 years ago, for about 2 years, I was like, every spring, wasp inside the windows trying to get out of the house, high windows. And I'm like, where are they coming from? And then finally, I had a gap. I have a wood fireplace with the gas thing in it, but it's still got the vent, that you close and open. And they were coming in through our chimney. And in the spring, they came by tens and tens, and they never hurt us. I mean, they were trying to get out through the window, and it didn't work. So, again, I got the vacuum out, and I had to just take them away. But I do that for 2 years, and I was like, it's a little unnerving when you're sitting in your living room and
You couldn't figure out where it was open.
okay, there's another how they doors are closed.
So close that little vent.
where's that thing coming from?
Yeah.
Well, what else? I mean, we're almost out of time here. A great springtime tune-up. A lot of it seems like it's outside. What inside can be done, or what do we need to be doing for spring tune-up inside the home?
The one big thing I did want to point out, and we talked about it, I think, a little before we started, was that when spring gets here and everyone tells you to do a daylight savings time, is check your smoke and CO detectors, okay?
Yeah.
To see if they're working. And on top of that, if they are 8 to 10 years old, they need to be replaced, because that's about the lifespan on those things, is 8 to 10 years. So from a safety perspective, you need
And
to
if
be
somebody can invent that those devices don't tell you they have a weak battery until you get up in the morning, they always do it like 2 a.m.
We're trying to figure out which one. Which one's going out?
When you get up
upstairs?
and it stops.
right.
It's always the way it works.
Or you can't pinpoint which one it is. You're chasing it around
I'm
the house
chasing-
at 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
in the
it ought to be
morning.
have a light, an LD light
Yeah.
that just shows it real quick until it just finally goes out totally.
Well, they're all pre-wired too, so we should make something that is monitoring their battery life, and then you have it
Something.
on a screen. You can just look it up, right?
Well, we just updated our CO2, which, our home being as old as it is, with our HVAC systems, they gave us 2 CO2 monitors.
Really, CO2?
And
So they go off every time
well,
you breathe
that's
out.
You're talking about carbon monoxide?
carbon
Yeah.
monoxide.
CO.
CO, there you go. And
Two parts.
Sorry, I'm not a chemist.
Yeah,
Clearly,
but you're a
clearly,
Texan. You're a
that goes
Texan.
unsaid.
So, but that is a good point. Fire alarms, those types of things, we can all check them out, make sure the batteries are updated.
One last thing real quick, hot water tanks. When you say carbon monoxide, Flower Mound won't even, when your tank's installed and the inspector, the guy from Flower Mound comes and checks it out in your house, and if you don't have a CO detector, you got to get one and prove it you have it.
Yep.
Yeah. And you got, hot water tanks need to be drained. They need to be, flushed. Is that correct?
They need to be serviced, because here in North Texas, the water is extremely hard.
Extremely.
And if you go out in your garage and you hear something sounds like it's knocking inside that
Yeah.
tank, it means you got a lot of sediment in there that
Yeah.
needs to be cleaned out.
There we go. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Love the spring tune-up discussion we've had. Tom, it's been great seeing you.
It's been good to be seen.
and heard it the last time. It seems like, hey, God bless.
Was it good
It's
to see me?
Wonderful February. Of course,
All right.
you're always here.
Yeah.
You're dependable.
Did you hear that, honey? Did you hear it?
Oh,
February 26th. I'm Blair Thomas.
and I'm Tom Holmes.
I'm Alan Pace.
God bless. We'll see you next week.